Imagine, imagine saving the universe by allowing yourself to be just brutally dismembered.
Yeah.
Like you literally feel your own flesh tear, you experience the absolute peak of human agony, and you do it all so your friends can live.
Right.
And then reality resets. You wake up, or well, you don't wake up. You are trapped in a void, and the very people you suffered for, their memories are completely wiped.
Completely gone.
Yeah. Your heroism is entirely erased from history. To the rest of the world, you just disappeared. So, is that a victory or is that the ultimate, just unfathomable tragedy?
It's a horrific paradox, honestly.
Yeah.
You've essentially won the war, but you've become a prisoner of the peace.
Wow. Yeah, and that horrific paradox is exactly what we are tearing apart today. And I need to be so clear about this right up front before we even breathe another word about how that specifically plays out. I need to issue a mandatory, just uncompromising warning.
Oh, yeah, I got that.
There are massive fucking spoilers ahead for the 2025 Netflix sequel, remember? The Last Night.
Yeah.
I am deadly serious. If you are listening to this and you haven't seen the film, pause this audio right now. Like right now. Go watch it and then come back because we are going to rip the ending of this movie down to the studs.
Yeah, we have to. You can't really analyze the architecture of a nightmare without looking at the blueprints, right?
Exactly.
And those blueprints are completely hidden in the climax. We're looking at the final frames, the hidden lore, the brutal deaths, all of it.
Consider yourselves warned. So, assuming everyone still listening has seen the movie or, you just love having your minds broken by proxy, our mission today is a massive breakdown of this brilliant analysis piece.
It's so good.
It really is. It's titled The Body Search Broken, Decoding the Remember Finale. We are untangling this completely twisted sequel, dissecting the very specific, almost algorithmic mechanics of the curse.
Right, because it's not random.
No, not at all. And we're exploring the heavy underlying themes of trauma that drive this whole blood-soaked engine. And I want to set the record straight right off the bat here. We wouldn't have this incredible source material to chew on if it weren't for the creators over at the Dread Den YouTube channel.
Oh, absolutely.
They are doing, hands down, the best horror lore breakdowns on the internet. So do yourself a massive favor, pull out your phone right now, go to YouTube and subscribe to the Dread Den channel.
They really did the heavy lifting on cracking this lore wide open.
They deserve your subscription. Go do it.
Their work mapping out the lore is spectacular, especially because at first glance, the premise of this franchise is already just intensely chaotic.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
It's so easy to get lost in the sheer volume of violence and completely lose sight of the rules governing it.
Right. So for anyone needing a quick refresher on the absolute insanity of this universe, you've got these high schoolers trapped in a temporal loop.
A very messy temporal loop.
Very. They're forced into this nightly body search. They are locked in an environment and relentlessly hunted by this terrifying supernatural entity known as the Red Person.
And it is brutal.
Fucking brutal. They die. We're talking torn limb from limb. They wake up the next morning and do it all over again. And they have to keep doing this until they can find all the scattered, severed pieces of a cursed victim's body and assemble them in a coffin.
But, we aren't just looking at the surface level jump scares today.
Right.
We are looking at the psychological architecture of a curse that simply refuses to die. Because this sequel turns the typical time loop trope entirely on its head.
It really does.
It moves from like a puzzle box scenario into something far more insidious.
Yeah, to really get into the headspace of this film, I want you, yes, you listening right now, to imagine something for a second.
Go for it.
Imagine you are carrying a horrific memory, something deeply traumatic, violent, and world-shattering.
Okay.
But you are the only person in the entire world who remembers it happened.
That's terrifying.
To everyone else, history is completely normal. The sky is blue, people are drinking their morning coffee, complaining about traffic, and you are just completely alone with this unbelievable nightmare playing on a loop in your head. Yeah. How long could you carry that before the cognitive dissonance completely broke you?
I mean, that profound isolation is the actual engine driving the narrative here, right? We're 3 years after the events of the first film.
3 whole years?
When trauma is shared, there is community. There's validation. You can look at someone else and say, that happened, right? And they nod.
Exactly.
But when you lack that validation, your own mind becomes a hostile environment.
So let's get right into the inciting incident of this 2025 sequel because it hinges on one massive, tragic revelation. At the end of the 2022 movie, We all thought the survivors beat the game.
We did.
Right. They reassembled the body, they survived the time loop, roll credits, everyone goes home happy.
Yep.
But the body search broken analysis points out this brutal truth: the curse didn't break.
No.
It just shifted.
Yeah, because the system governing this curse is essentially a closed thermodynamic loop.
Wait, thermodynamic?
Yeah, it operates on this horrifying kind of conservation of energy.
Oh, wow. Okay.
By reassembling the body in the first film, the survivors successfully altered history. The original victim of the curse, Miko, was spared from ever being dismembered.
Right, she got saved.
She did. However, the supernatural system recognized a deficit. The universe had a slot labeled, basically, sacrificial battery, and it was suddenly empty.
Oh my god.
It demanded a new sacrifice to maintain its equilibrium.
And that sacrifice ended up being Asuka, like Kana Hashimoto's character. She literally vanishes from reality and gets trapped in this horrifying limbo, this nether realm.
Exactly.
It's so fucked up. Winning the game didn't stop the game at all.
Not even a little bit.
It just passed the absolute worst of the suffering directly onto the person who carried them across the finish line.
Yeah.
It's like, imagine your computer gets infected with a massive system-destroying virus, right?
Okay, sure.
You spend days running anti-malware, you finally clear it, you feel this massive wave of relief, only to realize the antivirus software permanently bricked your motherboard in the process.
That's a great way to put it.
You didn't win. You just lost differently. I was so visibly pissed off on Asuka's behalf when I realized this.
Well, that analogy tracks perfectly with the concept of systemic shifting versus breaking.
Right.
Shifting a curse is about finding a localized loophole. You exploit a flaw in the rules to temporarily redirect the damage.
But the rules are still there.
Exactly. Breaking a curse requires dismantling the apparatus that writes the rules in the first place.
Wow.
The cruelty of the body search is that it intentionally creates the illusion of a definitive win state.
Oh, that is so evil.
It is. It preys on the human desire for closure, only to weaponize that closure against the person who worked the hardest to achieve it.
So Asuka didn't just die.
No, she was erased and repurposed as the new power source for the nightmare.
Wait, talk me through that mechanism. Why does a curse need a power source at all?
Well,
Because in most ghost stories, an entity is just inherently powerful because it's angry, you know? It's fueled by its own rage. Why is this specific curse acting like a malfunctioning piece of software that needs a battery?
because the body search isn't a traditional haunting. It's a localized reality warping event. To constantly rewind time, erase memories, and physically manifest an entity like the Red Person night after night, that requires an immense amount of supernatural capital.
Ah, I see.
In folklore, reality is heavy. You can't just bend it for free. The curse requires a soul in perpetual agony to generate the energy required to maintain the time loop.
Jesus.
So when Miko was saved, the power grid went down.
And the system just, what, grabbed the nearest available cord?
Essentially, yes. It automatically grabbed the nearest available high-energy source, the person who initiated the save and plugged her in. Asuka is experiencing a continuous eternal dismemberment in that nether realm just to keep the curse's lights on.
Which sets up our completely new terrifying landscape for this movie.
Yeah.
Because we aren't in the familiar creepy high school hallways anymore. Asuka's body parts have been scattered across an abandoned amusement park.
Such a good setting.
And the aesthetic dread of this location is completely off the charts. We're talking rusted Ferris wheels creaking in the wind, peeling paint on creepy clown facades, overgrown weeds just choking the roller coaster tracks.
The environmental shift is a deeply intentional narrative choice.
How so?
Well, think about a school, which was the setting of the first film. It's traditionally a place of order, routine, and authority.
Right, you know where everything is.
Exactly. Corrupting a school in horror is about corrupting safety and predictability. But an abandoned amusement park, that is a place built explicitly for joy, adrenaline, and distraction, and now it's left to rot.
Oh, wow.
The juxtaposition of those brightly colored, whimsical rides against rusted, decaying structures creates a profound sense of melancholy. It perfectly mirrors Asuka's situation.
I totally see what you mean. Like, she was this young girl with an entire life of potential ahead of her, and she was just abruptly halted and left to decay in the dark.
Yep.
The geography of the park also completely changes the horror dynamics, right? In a school, you have choke points, you have hallways, classrooms with doors you can barricade, stairwells. It's very linear.
Very contained.
But an amusement park is totally open world. You have sprawling plazas, sight lines that go on forever, dark rides with labyrinthian interiors. You are exposed from every single angle.
Precisely. The openness of the park weaponizes agoraphobia, just as the school weaponized claustrophobia.
That's a great
The
point.
new victims are constantly vulnerable, and the red person has unparalleled verticality now. It can drop from a roller coaster track or emerge from a funhouse mirror maze.
And stepping into this rotting theme park is our new group of high schoolers who are completely clueless.
Completely.
Suddenly, they are stuck in this repeating night, getting slaughtered by a monster they don't understand, looking for body parts of a girl they don't know.
Yeah.
But the real emotional anchor here, and honestly the reason this movie hurts so deeply to watch, is Takahiro.
Oh, Gordon made his performance as Takahiro is incredible. He grounds the entire supernatural spectacle in very real, very raw human grief. The analysis we are working from heavily emphasizes his role because he is the sole survivor who retains his memories.
3 years.
Yeah.
I want the listener to really sit with that number. 1,095 days of waking up every morning, putting on a uniform, going to class, and sitting at a desk knowing that Asuka, the girl he loves, is trapped in a dimensional wall being perpetually tortured.
That's unbearable to think about.
And she is entirely erased from everyone else's timeline. Her parents don't know she exists. Her friends don't know she exists. He is the sole keeper of her memory.
It's a form of profound psychological torture.
Curiously.
When trauma is unacknowledged by the outside world, the victim often begins to doubt their own sanity.
Oh, yeah, you'd feel crazy.
Takahiro has to hold on to this horrific reality with a white-knuckle grip because the moment he lets himself believe the world's lie, the moment he accepts that Asuka never existed, she truly dies.
Oh, man.
His memory is the only tether keeping her in existence.
I can't even fathom what a normal Tuesday looks like for him. He's sitting in a cafeteria listening to kids complain about a math test while he vividly remembers watching those exact same kids get their throats ripped out 3 years ago in a time loop.
The dissonance is staggering.
The sheer dissonance of that, it would make you feral. He is utterly desperate, which is why he forces himself into this news cycle.
Right, he doesn't just stumble into it, he actively seeks it out.
Yeah.
His motivation has shifted entirely from the first film. In 2022, his goal was survival. In 2025, his goal is a crusade against the very fabric of this cursed universe.
He wants to break it.
He is willingly throwing himself back into the meat grinder because it is the only place where he actually has agency.
Which brings us to the new teens who are unfortunately drafted into his crusade, right? Wataru, Arisa, and Yamato.
Yeah, the new blood.
Takahiro essentially hijacks their nightmare to guide them, and it is going horribly.
So badly.
The loops are progressing, but the psychological erosion is setting in fast. We are watching these kids die in increasingly visceral, brutal ways. I mean, the red person in this movie is so much more aggressive.
It is. Because the environment is larger, so the red person's hunting tactics have evolved.
Right.
It's no longer just stalking, it's ambushing. It uses the decaying infrastructure of the park to inflict maximum psychological terror before the physical kill.
And these kids are breaking, they are stuck, they are exhausted, and they are losing hope. The repetition of death is just stripping them of their humanity.
Until Haruka shows up.
Yes. Haruka, a character who attempted the body search previously and is now imprisoned in her own form of purgatory, drops a massive piece of intel that changes everything.
The introduction of the Bloodstone fragment.
The Bloodstone.
This is the fulcrum upon which the entire second act pivots. It fundamentally changes the rules of engagement. Haruka reveals that this specific, ancient fragment of stone can trigger one final high-stakes loop.
Here is where the mechanics get incredibly interesting and terrifying.
Yeah.
If you feed this Bloodstone fragment actual human blood, it acts as a catalyst. It grants the group one final shot at reassembling Asuka's body. But the catch is monumental. You don't just get a free power-up.
No, the time loop. The very mechanic that has been their only safety net, the very thing that makes them immortal within the nightmare is completely deactivated.
The safety net is gone.
The curse's failsafe is just gone.
Let me stop you right there to make sure the gravity of this lands for you listening. For the entire movie, these kids know that no matter how much it hurts to get their spines snapped in half by the red person, they will wake up in their beds at 7 a.m.
Right. It hurts, but it's temporary.
It is guaranteed. But if they activate the stone, that guarantee vanishes. If they fail to find all the pieces before the night ends, or if they are killed by the red person, there are no more resets.
None.
No waking up the next morning. Everyone dies for real. Permanently.
It strips away the video game logic of respawning and replaces it with stark, fragile mortality.
And I have to pause here, because if you love decoding complex, high-stakes horror mechanics, exactly like this Bloodstone rule, if you love analyzing how shifting a single rule changes an entire narrative, you need to go smash the subscribe button on the Dread Den YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
I'm serious. They mapped out this exact shift in genre mechanics perfectly in their video. Go subscribe to Dread Den.
Hmm?
All right, back to the stone. I want to ask you and you, the listener, a direct question.
Okay.
Would you take that bet?
Oh, wow. It is the ultimate agonizing dilemma.
I don't think it's an easy yes.
No.
Think about it. You are trapped in an infinite loop of immense physical pain. Getting torn apart every night is a literal hell.
Sure.
But you wake up, you are technically immortal, you will never age, you will never get sick, you just have to endure a few hours of agony a night. Do you give up the agonizing safety of eternity for the incredibly high risk of absolute permanent death just for the chance to go back to normal?
I would argue that most people, when faced with the absolute finality of permanent death, would actually choose the loop.
Right.
Yeah. Human beings have an astonishing capacity to adapt to suffering if the alternative is nothingness.
That's dark, but true.
Groundhog Day scenarios in horror usually rely on the psychological erosion of the characters over decades. The terror comes from the endless repetition, the loss of meaning.
Right.
By introducing the Bloodstone, the film abruptly shifts genres midstream. It goes from a fatalistic, repetitive puzzle game into a high-stakes, permanent death survival horror.
It's literally like turning off God mode right before the final boss fight.
Exactly.
The sheer guts it takes for Takahiro and this new group of kids to accept this gamble cannot be overstated. They're looking into the void and choosing mortality over a guaranteed, albeit painful, existence.
Because they recognize that an existence without progression isn't life. It's just sustained biological function.
Damn.
The loop is a stasis chamber for the soul. By choosing the Bloodstone, they are reclaiming their autonomy. They are dictating the terms of their own potential demise, rather than letting the curse dictate their perpetual suffering.
And once they make that choice, once that blood hits the stone, we are launched into the climax of the film. The ultimate night, the final run.
Here we go.
And let me tell you, it is an absolute shit show of a climax.
Completely.
The pacing accelerates so fast it gives you whiplash.
Well, the source material outlines the visceral detail of this final push. They have managed to locate all the pieces of Asuka's body throughout the park, except for one.
The lower right leg.
The lower right leg.
Yeah.
And the curse, reacting to the deactivated time loop, has hidden it in the most treacherous environment possible.
The massive, rotting wooden roller coaster.
Yeah.
A wooden roller coaster in the pitch black of night. Just picture that for a second. It's rickety. The wood is rotting. There are massive gaps in the tracks where you could fall 100 feet to the concrete below.
It's terrifying.
There is no solid ground, no walls to put your back against. The wind is howling through the scaffolding, and the red person is no longer playing a game of attrition.
No, he knows.
It knows there are no resets either. It is absolutely relentless, going for immediate, permanent kills.
And the geography of the roller coaster serves a heavy thematic purpose here. It forces the characters onto a linear, narrow path.
Right. There's nowhere to go but up.
There is no branching out, no flanking maneuvers. It is a straight ascent into danger. And because the safety net is gone, every injury suddenly carries massive weight.
Oh, yeah.
In previous loops, a broken arm was a temporary inconvenience. Now, a sprained ankle is a death sentence.
The sequence plays out like this deeply traumatizing relay race where the baton is literally a severed leg.
A very bloody baton.
And what unfolds is a sequence of staggering, heartbreaking self-sacrifice. The new group, Wataru, Arisa, Yamato, they begin to fall one by one. But they don't just die. They aren't just caught. They actively lay down their lives.
That distinction is crucial. They weaponize their own mortality.
Let's dig into how they do it. When Arisa gets cornered on the tracks, she doesn't cower. She literally throws herself at the red person, grappling with it, letting its claws tear into her just to buy Yamato 3 extra seconds to climb higher with the leg.
Yeah.
Yamato does the exact same thing further up, taking a lethal blow so Wataru can pass the leg to Takahiro. They are using their physical bodies as speed bumps against an unstoppable force.
It contrasts sharply with the typical slasher or survival horror dynamic.
Totally.
Usually in these films, the overarching theme is selfishness and the breakdown of social contracts.
Mm.
When the chips are down, characters turn on each other to survive.
Right, every man for himself.
But here, the shared trauma of the time loop has forged an unbreakable, albeit brief, solidarity.
But why? That's what blows my mind.
What do you mean?
These kids barely understand the origins of this curse. They've only known Takahiro for a handful of loops. They don't know Asuka at all. They have never seen her face. Yet they are willingly bleeding out on a rotting pile of wood, letting themselves be permanently erased. For a stranger. Why do they do it?
Because they aren't dying for Asuka.
They aren't.
No, they are dying to break the mechanism of suffering itself. They recognize that their individual lives have become secondary to dismantling the system that perpetuates this abuse.
Wow.
It's a profound display of radical empathy. They've experienced the absolute depths of despair within the loop, and they are making a conscious choice to ensure no one else ever has to experience it. They become martyrs to an empathetic cause.
Man. And because of that chain of sacrifices, Takahiro makes it.
He does.
He becomes the sole survivor, left standing amidst an absolute bloodbath on the tracks, clutching that final piece. He drags himself to the chapel where the empty coffin waits. He places the lower right leg inside. The body is completely reassembled. The physical puzzle is finished.
But as we established at the beginning of this analysis,
Yeah.
just finishing the puzzle isn't enough.
Right. If you just follow the rules of the body search and assemble the corpse, the curse just finds a loophole, shifts the parameters, and demands a new battery.
Exactly.
If Takahiro just closes the lid, he's basically just nominated himself or someone else to take Asuka's place in the wall. So how do they avoid repeating the exact same catastrophic mistake from 3 years ago? I'm assuming they have to fundamentally cheat the system somehow.
They do, and this is where the narrative brilliance of the sequel truly shines. The resolution isn't just about physical endurance. It requires a systemic short circuit.
A short circuit.
Yes.
Yes.
It requires a synchronized attack from both inside and outside the system. As Takahiro completes the physical reassembly in the real world, Asuka is simultaneously acting within her trapped nether realm.
This is the massive payoff. From inside the trap, Asuka locates the Bloodstone, not the fragment the kids used, but the actual massive magical core of the curse itself that exists in the void.
The main battery.
Yes. And she shatters it at the exact microscopic moment that Takahiro places the final piece of her body into position in the real world.
And to understand why this works, we need to look at how magical systems operate in folklore.
Okay.
They rely on a strict, rigid adherence to rules and contracts. The curse's contract required a substitute sacrifice to keep functioning upon completion of the game.
Hold on, I need to push back on this.
Go ahead.
If this curse has the power to literally rewrite global history, erase people from timelines, and manifest unkillable monsters, why does smashing a rock short-circuit it? Talk me through the magical physics there. How does a physical action stop a supernatural rewrite?
It's not just about smashing a rock. It's about exploiting the curse's own rigid logic against itself.
Okay.
Think of it like a legal contract with a fatal flaw. By fulfilling the physical requirement, completely assembling the body in the coffin, Takahiro satisfies the letter of the law.
Right, he did the task.
The curse is obligated to trigger its completion phase, which historically involves taking a new victim. However, by simultaneously destroying the Bloodstone, the physical anchor and power source of the curse, Asuka removes the curse's ability to execute that completion phase.
So they create a paradox.
Exactly, force a system crash. The algorithm says, game complete, initiate new sacrifice. But the hardware required to process that command has just been obliterated.
Oh, that's brilliant.
The system is fulfilled, but the mechanism to restart it is gone. It's caught in an impossible loop of its own making. Therefore, the entire decades-long chain of sacrifices shatters under the weight of the paradox. It collapses entirely.
History rewrites itself one final time. The universe essentially hits a massive glitchy reset button. The timeline violently snaps back to a normalized state.
More reality.
Asuka was never dismembered. Miko was never dismembered. The horrors at the amusement park simply didn't happen the way they did. The blood on the roller coaster is gone. We cut to the final scene, and the heavy wooden doors of the school chapel open.
Such a cinematic moment.
And there is Asuka, alive, wearing her school uniform, stepping out into the bright, blinding real world. Takahiro sees her, runs to her, and they finally reunite after 3 years of sheer grief, isolation, and separation.
The emotional catharsis of that reunion is incredibly earned. The source material emphasizes that this feels like a genuine, unironic, happy ending for the two leads.
And I am usually the first person to call bullshit on a happy ending trope. in a horror movie.
Oh, same here.
Usually it feels cheap, right? Like the studio mandated a test audience-approved smile at the end of 2 hours of torture so people wouldn't leave the theater depressed.
Yeah, the studio note ending.
Right. But here, I will defend this ending to my grave. After years of isolation, psychological torture, feral desperation, and literal physical dismemberment, these two completely earned this bittersweet ending.
We absolutely did.
They didn't just survive a rigged game, they broke the casino. I actually had to pause the video on Dread Den just to process the emotional weight of it.
It hits hard.
Which, by the way, if you want more surprisingly touching, incredibly smart horror analysis that actually makes you feel things instead of just listing body counts, you need to go subscribe to the Dread Den YouTube channel.
You really do.
I mean it. Go do it right now. They curate the best stuff out there.
They do phenomenal work. But while we can celebrate Takahiro and Asuka's victory, that victory brings us to the inevitable collateral damage.
Right.
The main couple is reunited, but we must look at the macro level. The universe reset, but what happens to the people who permanently died in that final Bloodstone-powered loop? What happens to Wataru, Arisa, Yamato, and Haruka?
The kids who sacrificed absolutely everything.
Yes.
The analysis breaks down their fate, and honestly, it's a lot to wrap your head around philosophically, because history rewrote itself to a timeline where the curse never required them to enter the amusement park. Their memories of the loops, of the trauma, of their own unimaginably heroic deaths are completely wiped clean.
As per the rules of the curse collapsing, the timeline resets to a normalized state.
Right.
They wake up in their beds on a normal morning. The horror at the abandoned amusement park never occurred in their reality.
Right.
They're alive, they go to school, they laugh with their friends, but they are entirely oblivious to what they endured or what they achieved.
Is the universe actually safe, though? Like, is the chain definitively snapped?
The source text points out a divergence in interpretation here.
Okay, I figured.
Some sources suggest the timeline fully corrects, meaning the paradox completely sterilized the curse. There is no lingering threat, no new victims lined up in the shadows.
They'd be nice.
It provides a much more conclusive, optimistic closure than the 2022 movie, which ended with that incredibly creepy newspaper twist that suggested the horror was ongoing and just waiting for a new cast.
But we are talking about J-horror.
We are.
The genre is practically built on the idea that trauma cannot be neatly wrapped up with a bow. Nothing is ever perfectly clean. Which brings us to the post-credits tease.
Naturally.
You sit through all the names, you wipe your tears, and then the screen cuts back in.
The post-credits scene is where the classic insidious J-horror ambiguity creeps back in.
Yep.
We hear characters, specifically Yamato and Shota, walking down a hallway casually discussing a rumor. It's just idle high school gossip. But the rumor is about something called the beginning ritual.
The beginning ritual. Just hearing that phrase gives me immediate chills. What the hell does that mean in the context of a universe that supposedly just reset?
It's a masterful dangling thread.
Yep.
What does a beginning ritual imply? Does it hint that the body search curse was just a symptom of a much deeper, older, more fundamental origin?
Oh, God.
Does it imply a new trigger entirely? Well, the text is clear that the main story for Sequoia and Takahiro is closed. Asuka is not going back into the wall. She isn't becoming a new battery. The universe that spawned this anomaly might merely be dormant rather than dead.
It leaves me with this huge, almost unanswerable philosophical question for you.
All right.
Is ignorance really bliss? Think about Wataru, Arisa, and Yamato. They pulled off one of the most badass, selfless, heroic sacrifices in the history of the genre. They threw themselves onto the gears of a supernatural machine to save reality, and they have zero memory of it. They look in the mirror and just see normal, bored teenagers. Is it better for them to have absolutely no memory of their heroism just so they can live a normal, bullshit-free high school life? Or is it a fundamental tragedy that their immense bravery, the greatest thing they will ever do, is completely erased from their own minds and from existence?
It is both.
Both.
Yeah, it is a profound tragedy of circumstance, but a triumph of outcome. They don't carry the trauma, which is the ultimate mercy in a universe defined by traumatic memory.
Right.
Remember Takehiro's 3 years of hell? They are spared that. They get to be kids. But it does leave a lingering, heavy melancholy for the audience because we are the only ones left who remember what they did. The viewer becomes the sole keeper of their memory, much like Takahiro was the sole keeper of Asuka's.
Man, that is heavy. That shifts the entire burden of proof onto the audience. So, as we wrap this up, if we pull all these disparate threads together from the source text, the shifting rules, the amusement park, the roller coaster relay race, the memory wipes, what are we really looking at?
We're looking at a thematic shift.
Right. This sequel takes the established time loop body horror premise and asks a deeply unsettling question. What if winning just passes the pain on to someone else?
And the thematic answer the film provides is one of absolute defiance. Takahiro and Asuka's absolute refusal to accept that toxic paradigm, their willingness to risk permanent, irreversible death, and the willingness of the new teens to lay down their lives for strangers is the only thing that finally stopped the trauma from repeating.
Beautiful.
It's a narrative built on the power of unacknowledged memory, the necessity of selfless sacrifice, and the moral imperative to refuse to let a cycle of abuse continue.
Have you ever been part of a toxic cycle? Maybe at a miserable, soul-sucking job where everyone hazes the new guy just because they were hazed when they started?
We've all been there.
Or in a family dynamic where generational trauma, anger, and abuse just get handed down like a twisted inheritance, and the only way to survive or win the dynamic is to pass the misery to the next person in line.
So common.
This movie is a literal, bloody, supernatural metaphor for deciding to be the one who stands up and says, no, the buck stops with me. I will break the cycle no matter the cost to myself.
It transforms what could have been a standard supernatural slasher into a poignant commentary on healing. You don't heal by passing the wound to someone else. You heal by dismantling the weapon that caused it.
Beautifully put. Before we get out of here, I'm going to demand one final enthusiastic time that you go to YouTube and subscribe to the Dread Den channel.
Please do.
They curated these sources, they did the heavy lifting on analyzing the lore, and they are putting out the most thoughtful, detailed horror analysis on the internet. Go give Dread Den a sub. Seriously, you will not regret it.
Their detailed breakdown of what the beginning ritual tease could mean for future installments is, on its own, worth this subscription.
Speaking of the beginning ritual, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on tonight. Something directly inspired by the source material, but taking it one step further into the dark.
Okay, I'm ready.
If Asuka destroying the Bloodstone successfully short-circuited the system and erased the curse's current manifestation,
Right?
what if the beginning ritual isn't a new curse?
Oh.
What if smashing that rock didn't just break the battery? What if it broke the cage? What if the beginning ritual is the release of whatever ancient, fucked up entity was trapped inside that stone in the first place, using the body search to feed itself? Sleep tight on that one.
A chilling perspective to end on. If the battery is broken, whatever was feeding on it is now hungry and loose.
Stay curious, check your realities, and for the love of God, stay out of abandoned amusement parks. Thanks for hanging out with us. Catch you next time.